Now, next up, we're going to talk about our accountability system. Julie Eklund, who's our Assistant Commissioner for Strategic Planning and Funding, will tell you about how, with the current system, you can go in and actually see how you're doing and pick out other institutions to see how you're doing compared to other people. Now, we're in the transition process working with the schools to have the accountability system focused directly on 60 by 30. We're going to have the prototype out there in January, but Julie will tell you how to use the system now, and I hope you'll actively use it because it's a way to get at data unobtrusively and actually, frankly, can save your staff some time because a lot of it's already available at the staff level. Julie, I'd like to say, when I taught one of those classes as an adjunct at UT a number of years ago, 10 years or so ago, she was a student in the class. I'm very proud of her. She's an Amherst, Harvard, and UT Austin graduate. And as good as she was then, she's even better now. So I can tell you, if there's anything you want to know analytically, Julie can tell you, but you need to allocate some time because she knows so much about it you wouldn't imagine. And she's probably one of the nation's top experts, by the way, in dual credit. So Julie?
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here today with all of you. And I will say thanks to David's class and the affiliated internship that I began at the coordinating board. I really did learn a lot of marketable skills and really helped me to be where I am today. So I'm a big proponent of our marketable skills goal. I'm here today to take just a few minutes to acquaint you with the Texas Higher Education Accountability System. So a little bit of background in terms of the system. It was established by an order from Governor Perry in 2004, and institutions around the state worked together with the coordinating board on this. It was required for our general academic institutions and our health-related institutions, but community colleges voluntarily agreed to participate in the system the following year, and then career schools were added to the system in 2011. The system has several interrelated purposes. In terms of the executive order, it said that the system was to determine the effectiveness and quality of the education students receive at institutions of higher education in Texas. But the system does more than that. It really allows institutions the opportunity to evaluate and compare their institutional data, really with the focus on improving student and institutional outcomes. And it's an excellent way to highlight state priority for institutions and for other users. So we really use the system to send the message about what we think is important in the state. Obviously, our Closing the Gaps plan was very important, and you'll see the current system is organized around that. And we're going to have a revised system coming soon, as Dr. Gardner mentioned, which will focus on our 60 by 30 tech state plan. So there are lots of groups, lots of stakeholders who use the accountability system. Legislators rely on it, systems in terms of the universities. We've got community college board members, institutions use it, the coordinating board staff use it in many different areas, and the list goes on and on. How is the accountability system data used? Well, the folks in our academic quality and research division use it when they're looking at, when they're doing program reviews. We use it in our online resume system, which is legislatively required resumes that are available online. I'll show you where parents and students can look at targeted information, but also policymakers and legislators have a page of targeted information for them. It's used in the Texas Higher Education Almanac, which I hope many of you have had a chance to see. That's a wonderful resource that you can drop in your briefcase and carry with you wherever you go. It's also used in our Compare College Texas website, which is a handy application that you can use on your cell phone. The system has information about community college success points, which are, of course, something that's very important to our two-year institutions. As I said before, there are institutional comparisons are really an important part of this system where you can compare institutions in lots of different types of ways. And it's also very helpful for regional planning, which is, of course, higher level planning than the local, but more specific than statewide. And I think it's very helpful to be able to go into the system and see data for a region and not just an institution or statewide. So we have several accountability peer groups, and data is organized by peer groups if institutions would like to look at comparisons across institutions that are similar to their own. The universities have 5 different groups, which are outlined here. The health-related institutions are grouped together in one group, and then the Texas State Technical Colleges and Lamar institutions, and of course I know Dr. Reeser is here, that should be 9 now with our couple of new campuses at the Texas State Technical Colleges, but their data is also separated out so that institutions in that group can look at comparative data there. The community colleges have 4 groups, and their institutions are broken out by size alone, so we have our very large, medium, and small institutions. I want to talk just briefly about the system updates, and then I'll show you a couple of examples of what accountability looks like and how it can be used. So last fall and last summer and fall, we spent time redesigning the architecture for the user interface for the accountability system. That was completed about a year ago. And then we have moved into the implementation phase. So we're going to have a new user interface, a new application for accountability, but we're also updating our accountability measures. And we've worked closely with our peer groups and with institutions from around the state to review the measures, to think about our new plan, where we need to be in 2030, and make sure that our measures will inform that direction. So here's, again, a little bit of background about where we're going to be, but in this December, we'll be introducing a draft system that will go online. In January, we'll have a soft launch with our accountability measures, and then we anticipate that in spring, the board will approve our final measures moving forward. Here's some information comparing the types of data that are available with the new. When we have the new plan with the new redesigned system and updated measures, we'll have a little bit more workforce information, of course, tying into our new plan. We'll have more information about student debt to follow along with that measure. And we'll also still include some sector-specific information and some of the overall key measures that we've had for a long time, like enrollments and graduation rates. So here is the location. Here is where the accountability is located. Here, accountability system is located. Here's where you start. You start by going to the higher ed data page, and this is what that looks like. And then you want to select accountability, which is front and center right here in the system under online applications. You can also notice on the upper right we have a copy of our higher education almanac. This is a quick way to get to the almanac also if you want to get to the electronic version. And then you jump into the system and you can select your type of institution. So you can see what they're organized by type of institution, and currently they're organized by our Closing the Gaps key goals: participation, success, excellence, and research. But of course, we'll be in the redesigned system, it'll be focused around our 60 by 30 text goals. And once you head into the system, you can drop down and select the institution you'd like to look at, or you can look at several institutions. So here's just an example of some statewide data with graduation rates. But you can drop down in the upper left there and select an institution and see what that data looks like for that institution. And you can scroll to see all of the information we have available. We have key measures, and we also have contextual measures that provide a little bit of additional information. So here's what the new portal, this is just a draft, but what our new portal design is looking like, and you can see we have our measures underneath. One thing I'm really excited about with the redesign is it's going to be responsive web design, and so that if you want to pull up the accountability system on your iPad or your cell phone, you'll be able to do that, and it'll automatically adjust and should work well with any kind of a mobile device. So again, we're excited about that coming, and all those institutions who've provided us input in terms of updating the measures. We really appreciate those efforts. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know you all want to. Yes. We post the measure once a year, so the data will be year-to-year data. We allow institutions a comment box for every measure, so they have the opportunity to add context. We have other places in terms of financial data that we have on, like what Tom Keaton showed you this morning, that's provided in other locations on the data website, but this particular data is a year to year. We collect the data from the institutions and we post how were we doing this year. Again, next year we'll show, and institutions will be able to compare trend lines throughout the period of the plan so they can see where we go from 2015 all the way through 2030 in terms of our measures and the progress that we're making. We don't have that in the accountability system. Sure, I'd be happy to discuss that with you in terms of our overall data, yeah.
If you could
Yes.
speak into the microphone, because we're trying to.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phil Ritter with the Dallas Community College District.
Yes.
Question, how do you perfect, if you will, the longitudinal capability of the system, especially from community college to upper division, and then from any higher ed institution into the workplace?
That's a very good question. We are very fortunate here in Texas in that we have a longitudinal database where we get information from the Texas Education Agency. We're able to link it with information from our community colleges, our four-year institutions, and then link it through to our workforce data. So we're able to follow students all the way from K-12, if they go to a community college, if they move from there to a four-year institution, and then what happens to the students in the workforce. So we have data about transfer, we have data about workforce outcomes. Texas, I think, is one of the most advanced in the country in terms of our ability to provide data across time longitudinally for students, and we use our data to do a great deal of analyses about students. Well, thank you all very much.